Welcome to hopefully my final guide on player-owned ports, and this will be the fastest way to unlock the recipes and to gather the trade goods. And of course, remember, you will need level 90 in the respective skill to attract the certain captains and crew members. But first off, the most important thing you want to do is make your way to ports and go to upgrade buildings. For the bar, you'll want to have as high of a bar as possible because there is a bonus chance of attracting adventures that are based on your skills that are level 90. So this is pretty much one of the most important things to focus on. Afterwards, it's not really required in a sense, but you want to then focus on your workshop. This is so you can start using those said trade goods that you have been getting. Otherwise, it will pretty much be a waste because the max of trade goods you're able to get is 250. In which case, if you do a mission afterwards, that's it. You won't get the extra 30 spice or whatever. It'll just cap at 250. And speaking of the trade goods, you'll want to go to this icon, the port management. Click the right arrow, and this is where you can choose what scrolls to get. Since this is going to be a trimmed completions requirement, you will actually need to unlock every single scroll. And to pretty much just do that, just click on the scroll. You might get a confirmation window saying, yes, you want to confirm to get that scroll. Each scroll is in 4 pieces, in which case you have to do the mission 4 times in a sense to get it. But I highly recommend you to go for the Eastern soups first. This is because as you're progressing, you will get so many spice missions that you will easily hit the 250 cap before anything else. So if you're an iron, focus on this first because you'll get so many spices. It's crazy. And to find out if you have gotten a scroll mission or not, you will want to go to Voyages and the special Voyages right here, in which case it will have a recipe icon, but when you complete it, you will get 1/4 of that recipe. Now, let's say you have spices and the Eastern soups. You want to make your way to the workshop, which is just simply northeast. And again, this does require you to actually build that workshop. Any tier works, but the higher the tier, just the more experience you will be getting. For here, there is a scrimshaw crafter, which makes scrimshaws. There is the cooking station, which makes the sailfish soups and rocktail soups. Back in the day, there was shark soups. And then you can just scroll down and it will say like 1 spice and it requires 1 rocktail. For the sailfish, it requires 1 sailfish that are cooked. And then just outside is the workbench, which you can make the sea singers, the death lotus, which again, if you scroll down, it does say the items required needed, and you can make a tradable version or an untradable version. The untradable version, you are able to augment and use that. The tradable version, you cannot augment. However, you can sell it to the Grand Exchange for money. There is also a miscellaneous tab, which is the Leviathan ring, which is extremely good for tanking damage, as it only has a 5% chance of reducing the damage by half. You also have the Superior Reef Walker's Cape, which is one of the few capes that gives you a life bonus. And lastly, the thrown weapons, which is completely useless, but it's the Death Lotus darts. Lastly, there is an anvil to make the Tetsu armor. And again, there is a tradable version and untradable version of that. So it's up to you if you want to do this for money or not. One thing I did forget to mention is at workshop, you are able to make the tier 85 dual wield for melee and magic, in which case you will require either a gemstone kasiki or the Tengu Suba, hopefully. I guess I pronounced those wrong, pretty sure. But anyway, to get those possible rewards, it's actually very hard because you want to go to voyages. And there is a trio mission that does give one of each. However, since it's required for dual wield, you need two. One for the main hand and one for the offhand. You can start refreshing and eventually you will get it, but there is a requirement. And you want to click on your captain's log, which if you ever need it, just speak to the navigator and reclaim log. And you can also get multiple. So read the captain's log. And you see this right here, the port statistics, the distance traveled. You will need to have gotten the 6 million miles traveled so that you have unlocked the chance to get one part of it. To get the other part, you will need to do the storyline missions, in which case there will be a trio voyage that requires 3 adventures at a time so that you can get that second one. After that, you can start refreshing your standard voyages daily for a chance at a 50-50 chance to get either the gemstone, which is for magic, or the Tengu, which is for melee. To find out if you get scroll missions or not, you want to go to voyages and the special voyages right here. This changes every single day based on the adventures that are at the port. So right now for me, it's the missionary and the occultist, in which case these are the best for the chi. Now let's say you actually do have some resources, mainly the spices, because you will max that out pretty much instantly. Well, not instantly, but like that's the first thing you'll be getting. You want to go northeast. For here is the workshop. The tier does not matter because it's only pretty much just extra experience. But right here, you are able to make scrimshaws, which if you click it, you can make untradable versions, which lasts 4 hours, or tradable versions, which you can sell to the Grand Exchange. However, they last 3 hours, and they require ancient bones. Next up, there is a cooking station, which it uses the spices and either a rocktail or a sailfish. There is also a workbench. This makes a lot of stuff that, again, is tradable and untradable. The untradable gear can be augmented so that you can add perks to it. And this will be the Sea Singers and the Death Lotus. There is tradable versions of that, so if you want to have money, you can make those, sell it to the Grand Exchange, and that is how you get some passive GP income. There is also miscellaneous gear, which is pretty much the Supreme Leviathan Ring, which has a 5% chance of halving incoming damage. This is the most tankiest ring there is. And there is also a Superior Reef Walker's Cape. If you are going for the Completionist Cape, you will actually need to unlock all the recipes, and I believe you have to craft this. And lastly, for the melee armor, there is the nearby anvil, and once again, you're able to make a tradable version or an untradable version which you can sell to the Grand Exchange. The choice is up to you. Now, let's go over pretty much the best ways to get the scrolls and the trade goods. So go to upgrade buildings icon and hit the left arrow. Hit it again so you have the upgrade icon hotspots. This is how you attract the certain adventurers. Not 100%, but you're a higher chance of attracting them. Let's say you want to go for Trye, which is used for rune crafting, the Sea Singer outfit, and the weapons tier 85 with it. You will want to attract the Missionary, which does require 90 prayer, and the Occultist, which requires 90 rune crafting to make, along with 1,000 chimes. You are able to attract 3 of them. So the method is to attract 2 of a Missionary, or 2 Occultists, and then 1 Missionary and 1 Occultist. It's just up to you which one you want to upgrade or not, that you want to have visit you. For the plate, for the Tetsu, which honestly is not really useful whatsoever, but if you're interested, it will be the Biologist, that requires 90 Herblore, and the Whaler Adventure, that requires 90 Fishing. And again, remember, you're only able to build 3 hotspots. Next up will be the Lacquer. I believe that's how you pronounce it, but you want the Assassin, which requires 90 Slayer, or the Convict, that requires 90 Thieving. Again, have one of 2 of the same, and then have one of the other. For the pearls, if you're going for that Leviathan ring, because it's tanky, you want to go for actually 2 chefs that require 90 cooking, and 1 biologist for requiring 90 herblore. This does matter because you want to go for that 2 chef and then 1 biologist rate for the highest chance of the pearls. Next up, let's say you're going for the Kio Scales so that you can make that Reef Walker cape. You'll need 1 or 2 archaeologists, which does require 90 construction, and 1 or 2 hunter adventurers, which requires, you guessed it, 90 hunter. And for the last one, this kind of depends up to you. It's the same thing as before, and that would be the Ancient Bones. This is used to make the overpowered scrimshaws that we have in the game, which are a pocket slot item and requires 90 fletching to make. However, to get them, you'll want to attract either 1 or 2 biologists, that requires 90 herblore, and 1 or 2 missionary, that requires 90 prayer. So if you are an Ironman, you'll want to focus on getting 90 herblore pretty quickly, because because prayer is pretty quick to get, in my opinion, with Nemi Force daily. And that is how you get the Ancient Bones as fast as possible. There is one more trade good, and that would be spices. However, there's nothing that I've found to attract that the most. It's a basic mission. And what I mean by that is, let's go to the voyages. Instead of the special voyages, it will be a standard. You want to refresh it until you usually get whatever trade good that you do have the highest percentage of getting. Once you have that, just make sure your crew has a high success rate. And speaking of the crew, you can edit crew. And this does depend if you are pretty far enough or not, but you will want to try to get the Terracotta Merchant. This has, I believe, a 10% increase or 25% increase of the trade goods. So let's say you're doing that mission I got at the very beginning for 16 chi. You'll get 10% or 15% more, in which case that might be, I believe 20 chi, so it does actually add up a lot. But if you're doing like ancient bones, you'll get like 8 bones. So it's not always 16 trade goods, it just varies. And then spices, you're able to get up to 30 of them at a time. For the trade goods, again, go to the upgrade buildings, go past the icons, which attracts the adventurers. You will now have the upgrade totem hotspots. This, again, depends if you're going for the trimmed completions requirement that requires you to have all of the scroll missions. So, the choice is up to you. You can either go for the telescope, in which case you're able to build 4 of them, which has a 10% increase of receiving the scroll voyages, in which case you're going to need a ton of luck for this and a lot of time. But to make it, you'll need 3,000 jade and 2,000 cherry wood. So just make sure you go back to those islands, which I'll show right now. So go to port management, and you see how my skull is highlighted. Well, not highlighted, but grayed out. You want to go like, let's say, the bowl for the resource jade, in which case now you'll be getting missions more often that give jade, and then do the same thing for the cherry wood. You want to do that until you get enough supplies to get that. And let me just go back to that spot again. Here we go. So again, go for the telescope if you're going for the trimmed completions requirement and or to get scrolls faster. And the last one would have to be the jade statue, which is the only one that is pretty much worth it again. This does require 3,000 jade and 2,000 cherry wood per hotspot. So since we have a chance of building 4, you could get the 10% chance to receive trade goods. However, what I liked to do, since it will be a trimmed completion requirement, you can go for 2 jades and 2 telescopes. That way you have a 7% chance of getting trade goods and a 7% chance of getting the scrolls for that requirement completed. Thank you all so much for watching this extremely long guide on the best possible ways to attract the adventurers for trade goods and or to unlock recipes for player-owned ports, as it will be a requirement. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, as it really does help